What's up, guys? Hope you all had a good Easter. I got kind of an Easter color scheme going throughout today's episode, even though by the time you see it, it's going to be about a week past Easter, but you know, these things happen. Hit the bumper. Anytime I would look into wireless follow focus systems, the Tilta Nucleus M was always the one that was recommended to me, but for $1,200, I could never pull the trigger. So when Tilta announced for $229 the Nucleus Nano, I jumped on it. Problem is, so did a lot of other people. I've had it back ordered since January 1st, and it's finally here, and I'm going to show it to you guys. The Nano is positioned as a wireless follow focus for Tilta's own gimbals, while also being compatible with all the other major gimbals on the market. And that's great, but what sold me on it was the fact that it had a range of up to 300 feet. I'm going to test that range today while also showing you how this baby works, and showing you a couple inexpensive add-ons that can take this to the next level. The first thing I noticed was how nice this case is. It's hard on the outside and has very sturdy foam on the inside. Packed inside this case is the Nano wireless handwheel, the Nano wireless motor, a base plate that will hold a rod, and the black aluminum rod that will accommodate any lens that's 95 millimeters or under in the outer diameter. And if that doesn't work for you, you can mount it to any rod and cage system that fits your needs. It also comes with a handwheel mounting plate to mount it to any gimbal. For me, that's going to be the Ronin S. A bracket that fits onto the Zion crane that we're going to use for something different later. 2 lithium-ion batteries, not to be confused with AA's. AA's will not work in this system, even though these lithium-ion batteries look exactly like AA's. A crazy magnetic lithium-ion battery charger, micro USB power cable, 2 gear rings for photography lenses, different size Allen wrenches, and some mounting screws. Now, on top of all the stuff it comes with, these are the things I purchased separately. An external power bank, a camera handle, and a cold shoe flat plate. Links to all these things will be down in the description. So let's start building our rig. I'm going to start with a camera motor for a cinema lens first. So what I did first is buy this Omar's power bank and then this K-Tech cold shoe plate. The cold shoe plate came with 2 sticks of Velcro, which I used to stick the two together. I like to make sure that the softer part is stuck to the battery, so if I take the battery off, there's not a bunch of stuff that sticks to it like it would if the other side of the Velcro was on it. First install the attachment plate to the bottom of the camera, and then I attach my tripod's quick release plate to the bottom of that. Then I install the aluminum rod into the rod holder. Slide the motor on so it lines up with the gears on the lens and then lock it into place. Now you take a micro USB cable and plug one end into the power bank and one end into the motor. Once that is done, the motor turns on and has a big number on it to tell you what channel the motor is on. If you double click up or down, you can change the channels you're on, or if you hold the button, you can see what serial number and what firmware the motor has. Now let's set up our focus wheel. First thing you need to do is take one of the lithium-ion batteries and put it in the bottom of the focus wheel. Again, make sure it's not a AA battery, and really make sure that you don't try charging a AA battery with that magnetic charger. Now that we have power, let's change the setup to make it more comfortable. I didn't like how little surface area there was to hold on to the wheel itself, so I came up with what I thought was a brilliant idea until I looked around and I was not the first person that had this idea at all. The first thing you do is take the little clamp you're supposed to attach to the Zion crane and attach it to your handle. It's really easy to install. You just unscrew it so it has enough room to close around the handle itself and then just tighten it back up. Then you screw in the attachment plate with this little nub end pointed down. Then you put the locking mechanism in the unlock position and slide the wheel on. Now for me and my big hands, this is much more comfortable and makes it much more easy to pull focus. So now that everything's rigged up, let's see how it works. When I first turned it on, I was kind of worried because the lens and the motor did not seem like they cooperated at all, and the motor was making a loud sound. Little did I know, all I had to do was calibrate it and it would run like a top. So let's start from the beginning. The motor is already on when you plug it in, so you don't have to turn that on. To turn on the wheel, all you have to do is hold down the record button. Now to calibrate a cinema lens, it's extremely easy. You just hold down the calibration button, which is labeled as CAL, for 3 seconds, and it'll auto-calibrate a cinema lens. What does the calibration do? It makes the wireless follow focus wheel stop exactly where your lens stops. If for some reason when you start turning the wheel nothing happens, make sure that the wheel and the motor are on the same channels. Now your lens is ready to be used. So now let's see what it takes to set up on a photography lens. It's a little more difficult because a photography lens doesn't stop. You can just keep turning it forever, so the follow focus can't auto-calibrate. The first thing you need to do is put gears on the lens itself. And what do I mean by gears? I mean these little weird things that come with the follow focus itself. They're not the best solution, but they get the job done. If you don't like these, there's other solutions online. I'll make sure to leave a link for some better gears down in the description. For now though, we'll attach these gears as tight as we can get them onto the lens, making sure it's straight all the way around. I like to line it up close to one of the edges so that way you have a better guide to see how straight it is. So first you have to take the old lens off. To take the old lens off, you just have to loosen up the motor, make sure the motor's not touching the lens, take the lens off like you normally would, then put the new lens on, set the new lens to infinity focus, and then reattach the motor so it's in line with the gears. Now again, because the photography lens just keeps on turning, you have to manually calibrate the focus. To do that, make sure your lens is at infinity and double click the calibrate button. Then slowly turn it to the other direction until it would stop normally and double click it again, and you've set your calibration for your photography lens. So while it's a little more difficult, it's still pretty simple if you ask me, and now your lens is ready to go. Another thing you can do with this follow focus is set A and B points. Let's say you want to rack from one person to another perfectly and you have to do it multiple times. Well, you can set A and B points and it will hit those targets every single time and not go past them. To do that, focus on the first person you want as your A point and hit the set button. Then focus over to the second person and hit set again, and that's all you have to do. When you no longer want your A and B points, you just hit the set button one more time and you have the full range of your calibrated lens. Also, in case you ever need it, there is a menu button inside the wheel. To access it, all you have to do is hold the up button and scroll through the options. Whatever's on top is what you're selecting. Installing the focus wheel on a gimbal is also a very easy thing. From the setup we've already configured, the first thing I would do is take off my tripod's quick release plate and attach the quick release plate of my gimbal. Then attach the camera with the motor attached and balance it as you normally would. On the Zhiyun crane gimbals, attaching is just like we did on the handle. You just wrap that little bracket around and tighten it up. So the first thing I need to do is unlock the attachment plate to slide the wheel out, then remove the attachment plate and get ready to place it on the Ronin. I like to mount the wheel on the right side because I'm right-handed, and that way I don't have to mess with the focus wheel on the Ronin S itself. You can either take off the protective plate or attach it on top of the protective plate. I like to attach it on top of the protective plate so none of the contacts get messed up and everything's protected on the gimbal. After you screw in the plate, you slide the wheel on, you're ready to go. That easy. So going back to that original rig, I want to show you how I would set up my first AC or focus puller's full setup. After reassembling the whole rig, the only thing I have to do is screw a monitor onto the top. Furthermore, you can unscrew the little lanyard holder on the bottom, set it on a stand, and you don't even have to hold it anymore. The last thing we're going to check out is the range. It claims it can stay connected up to 300 feet as long as you maintain line of sight. And if you don't know what line of sight is, it just means there's a clear path between you and the receiver. So I went to where any logical person would go to measure a distance like this, a football field. I first started 10 yards at a time and realized that was a waste of time, so I jumped to the full 300 feet that Tilta claimed it could do, and it had no problem connecting whatsoever. It really didn't have any disconnection problems at all until I got 130 yards away, which is 390 feet, and it still worked, it just didn't work reliably. And 390 feet is 90 feet longer than a football field. Here's a shot from the camera. With a 100mm lens on it, it's kind of hard to tell how far I really am. So I took this opportunity to play with a Mavic Pro 2. While it is more fun, it also definitely shows the distance much better than the camera itself. The key to having this range is obviously, like I said before, just having a good line of sight. The only negatives I have about this system is when I pull the system out and I check the motor, there was a little rubber tab inside the micro USB slot. And when I went to take it out, it was completely disconnected and flew across the room. Obviously not the biggest of deals, but it's just one of the things I noticed. Also, it's not a high torque motor, so it's not the fastest motor in the world, but it definitely isn't anything that's going to bug me. The only time you can really tell is when you try to turn it completely from one side to the other. And the third thing I noticed is when putting it on a gimbal, the gimbal has a tendency to move ever so slightly when it starts pulling focus. So to counteract that, just make sure the resistance is turned up very high on your gimbal. Now, if you don't like the motor, the good news is the Nucleus Nano's parts are completely interchangeable with Tilta's other wireless follow focus systems. Meaning you can just order a motor from a Nucleus M system, or if you already have a Nucleus M system and just want a little motor to turn your iris, you can buy a cheaper one with the Nucleus Nano motors. So it's no surprise that I'm in love with this gimbal, as you can see by me gushing all over it in this video. In case you were wondering, yes, I bought it with my own money. This was not a sponsored video. So that's going to wrap up this episode of Lunascope Film School. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that button over there. If you want to join this growing Lunascope Film School family, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. If you just have a question, you can comment down in the comment section. As long as you remember, it's not a competition. Let's all rise in this business together. See you guys next time.